Y'all live? We good?
Live.
We good. Hi, guys. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first live show of Feb Rising. Or, if you want to do your Howler impression. Whoa. I didn't mute that screen. Sorry. There we go. Now it's good. Yes, we're going to talk about Red Rising today. And with me, I have Lezlie and Christy and Pete, and they're going to introduce themselves and tell you guys a little bit about their experience with Red Rising. This is my first time reading it. It's my first time delving into this series, and I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, considering how many people told me that the first book is not really very good. So you guys introduce.
What were they reading? What were they reading?
I have no idea. We can start with Lezlie. Just tell everybody your channel, just in case they don't know, and your experience with Red Rising.
What up, nerds? I am Lezlie from The Nerdy Narrative. I read all the things, just whatever. I don't even care. You name it, I'll read it.
Nice. And is this your first time reading Red Rising?
This is my first time reading Red Rising, and while I am sad that I've never gotten into this series, I'm also excited to read it for the first time.
Nice. Pete?
Hi, I'm Pete from Ponderings of Pete. This is my accidental fourth time reading this book. I've read it a few times. Mostly, I read it twice trying to get ready to read Iron Gold, which is the fourth book. But that didn't happen yet, so I'm excited to keep rereading this. And yeah, one of my favorite series of all time.
Awesome. And
I did not know that.
And pitch your channel.
Oh, yes, Ponderings of Pete. I read books, all the books, mostly fantasy and sci-fi currently. I'm branching into other things like Crime and Punishment, which I'm almost done with, so I'm branching into some more heavy stuff. 100 pages.
Nice. Christy?
Pete has the most nerd gear I've ever seen. It's awesome. My name is Christy Lewis, and my channel is Dostoevsky in Space. I read a lot of classics. I'm trying to read more nonfiction, but really fantasy and science fiction is that's where I've always been my whole life. I've always read that. And yes, hi crypto. This is one of my favorite sci-fi series. I haven't read a ton of sci-fi yet, but this is one of the series that made me think I'm really gonna like it because it's fabulous. So I've listened to like the first 3 books pretty much, and I want to reread them and continue on. So I'm really excited that this read-along is happening.
Nice. So without wasting more time, let's talk about Red Rising. So we're going to talk spoiler-free to start with, and then we'll get into spoilers. We're just going to give general impressions of the book. We're probably going to talk about what the book's about, which isn't really... I don't really consider if it's in the movie trailer to be a spoiler. I know some movie trailers like spoil a lot, but like this book is really segmented into 2 parts. There's the first part, and then there's the second part. And it's not really a spoiler. I don't think it's a spoiler to talk about what the second part is about. I mean, do y'all like... everyone knows it's kind of like everyone has heard that it's Hunger Games in space. So there's a Hunger Games element, and that's part 2. And so we're not going to really go into details about it, but we are probably going to mention the fact that there's a Hunger Games section, or as I call it, murder, capture the flag section, because it's really more than that. It's that more than like murder everybody around you. So what did you guys like? What were your general impressions of the book? Like, what did you give it? If you gave it 5, if you give stars, I give it 4 stars because I didn't super enjoy the first part, like, because it is 2 parts. It's, before the Hunger Games and then the Hunger Games. And I know y'all liked that first part way more than I did. I didn't like the writing style, like the first person present, very like skeletal. And I also don't really love like the metaphors and similes. I thought it's like, oh, like she was hot like coffee. And it's just like, what? I don't know what that means. It's not that one. There's stuff like that. But once the war games started, guys, I love war games. So just someone jump in and tell me what were your general impressions of the book?
I mean, definitely the beginning. Yeah.
Go ahead, Christy. Go ahead.
I was going to say, definitely the beginning is slower than like the second half, but I don't know very many books that are like faster in the beginning than the second half. So Yeah, I loved the whole
didn't
thing.
think it was slow at all. Like, I sat down and read the first 3 chapters. I was hooked, and it was completely a binge-worthy book, just straight away. I mean, I personally didn't find anything wrong with the writing style at all. I thought he was just succinct. He was to the point. I mean, sure, there's a few descriptions in there that are a little simplistic, but I enjoyed that because I have tons of complex reads. Sometimes I just want to read something for the pure enjoyment of reading it and just being in that world. He did a great job. I could visualize where all of this took place. And to me, the author does his job with his descriptions if I can picture what's going on around. And the second half was definitely better than the first, simply because I was so surprised. But I also had expectations going in because I kept hearing the Hunger Games comparison. I see where that came from, but then again, I don't think you read far enough in to really see how nuanced and different and how much better than the Hunger Games it actually was. I thought this put Hunger Games to shame. And it's way more believable. I could believe this world. I could believe all of this happening. Hunger Games? Hell no.
As far as the world building is concerned, I do think that Pierce Brown, I think the world building is really interesting. The fact that Earth has been nuked by this new race of human called the Golds, and they've just spread out planetarily, on the moon and Mars, where this takes place, and even the gas giants like Jupiter and the other planets. So I really liked the world building in this, but Charmaine agrees that the first part was not as good. But Adrian really loved the first part. Pete, what are your thoughts?
I did not think the first part was slow, but that's more particularly because of how I read. It's involved with if there's world building, I don't think those parts are slow. I'm like a little child in a candy shop when there's world building. So I'm just look at all the things. Ooh, there's a Webbery. What?
Oh man, see, I did not like that. I mean, I think I said in the chat, I'm like, oh my God, there's a Webbery. Please don't take us there. The next chapter took us there. And I'm like,
okay, yeah, Angela says 3.5 stars. Bingeable, and the writing style is easy to digest. The writing style, like Lezlie said, is very succinct. I thought it was too succinct in certain places, and it did take me. And I think we're all like this, where when we swap a writing style, it takes a minute to acclimate when we're in a new series. And so I think it took about 100 pages for me to be okay, this kind of flows. And we'll talk about some pacing and character motives here in a minute. But as far as the first half, the world building section, it felt very cyberpunk to me. And I don't really like the cyberpunk aesthetic, especially, when we're getting to the Sons of Ares and all that kind of stuff. You'll know what part I'm talking about, the modification, things I was just am I reading Cyberpunk 2077? Is that what this is? Or Shadowrun? It's a Shadowrun campaign. And so that's not really my thing, which probably further contributed to the fact that I was just I guess it's fine. But man, war games, are you kidding? That's good stuff. So I didn't think the beginning was slow. I didn't care about Darrow and his 16-year-old problems.
But he wasn't actually
instantly.
16.
Yeah, I mean,
Darrow just wanted to dance.
I mean,
I can identify with that as a fellow dancer. Yeah.
Instantly, Darrow has these relationships, and you care about the. I don't know. For me personally, I instantly cared about the relationships that he was in. I just felt like they were so strong, and I feel like that's a big part of what drew me into this book was the relationships. The crew later on, and in the beginning, there's a marriage, and I feel like instantly they're always in danger, and that really drew me in. So I felt like I was instantly hooked from the beginning, but I feel like the pace. I don't know. There was a lot of introduction in the beginning. I felt like we spent a lot of time on introduction to the world in the beginning, which is fine. It's a sci-fi novel. But like the plot, when the plot really picks up, it just never stops. It's just continuously shocking and really, really gripping. So I felt like they were very different, the part 1 and part 2, but they meshed together really well for me personally. I just thought it was a perfect experience. I didn't even think there were flaws until I started seeing people in Alan's Discord like criticizing different things. And I was like, I don't get it. I love it all.
Well, Luke, you should definitely read it. Chief Hand Grenade, 3 out of 5. It was too fast paced. Part of the beginning, I had to read the section. I had to read some of the earlier sections like multiple times because stuff happened so fast. Like after the inciting incident, which we'll call it right now until we get into spoilers. After the inciting incident, when the inciting incident carries over to Darrow himself, I'm like, wait, what is happening? Wait, what? What just happened? Like I had to read that chapter like 2 or 3 times to figure. I'm like, how? Like how do the bad guys know what is happening here? Like what? I was very confused because it was really, really fast paced and really like just really again like succinct. I don't feel like Foundry Side doesn't feel cyberpunky to me, and I don't really know what the difference is. But maybe I'm just being wishy-washy. Klaus says too many conveniences and Darrow was too almighty after. We'll talk about Darrow's power creep.
Yeah.
No, there's so many comments. Anyway, we're looking at them. Yes, I agree with that. How you feel about the foundation of Darrow's relationships directly impacts how you feel about the book. Correct. I think that is what kept it from being 5 stars for me. That's what took the star away. But his relationships with the people in the second half, I really care about. Like loyalty, loyalty between general and soldiers is always just one of my favorite character relationships. And so like the loyalty that Darrow's the people he's with in the second one, and the changing loyalties and the betrayals and the reversals, all of that stuff, I love that stuff. And it's very sad because I probably should care more about the relationship in the first half of the book that I just didn't. So does anyone have any like other non-spoiler thoughts? I think it was great. I think, like you said, Lezlie, it's much better than the Hunger Games in a much more like realistic. I think I am more inclined to believe space travel and colonization of Jupiter as a real world than what is it? Central City? No, that's the Flash.
Yeah, there's no way that world in Hunger Games would have gotten that far without an uprising.
Before the similarities are the freaking references to Greece and Rome, like all the character names in Hunger Games and all of the. But I think in Hunger Games, those references are I'm not sure that they're applied thoughtfully. Like I think they're just like, oh, here's a Roman name. This is Cinna. This is Cicero. This is Here, I think Pierce Brown really like purposely has these references, and even the characters reference. I like that it's set in our world, but in the far future, which is why they reference the Roman Empire. They reference the Greeks. And I think that is super interesting. And so all these people are named, with all these Roman names. And I don't know. I really love the classical references.
And I think in Hunger Games, it's also a little bit more hand waved away because like you have that knowledge level of the average person in the Hunger Games. They don't know the Roman Empire existed. So just some random person from District 12 because they're not educated. So Pierce Brown basically thought about these things and, made sure that his characters would also contemplate them, and he didn't run away from the references, if that makes sense.
And Alex and Philip, welcome. Though I think we're wrapping up with the non-spoiler stuff. But like as I'm reading it, and I said this in my tweet, like I've never seen a fantasy book reference the Greek general Alcibiades, like last of this great line of Athenian aristocrats, and like it's referencing it in a way that is talking about what this guy did. So I just ate this crap up. Like every time there's like, oh, it's Nero Au Augustus, I'm like, yes, it's Nero. Or Octavia Au Luna, I'm like, yes, it's Octavia. I just got so excited by by just the naming conventions, and they're doing it because the golds are, they believe that they're like the Romans above the rest of the world. So anyway, yeah, it's what it's just this kind of stuff that I like. So y'all have any other final non-spoiler thoughts before we move? All right, cool. All right, well, Philip's gonna bail, but Philip, read Red Rising. It's so good, and then come back.
Definitely.
So we're about to gush. So, all right. So if you have not read it, you should probably bail because we're going to talk about spoilers here in just a minute. So, all right, here come the spoilers. So I guess we should first talk about, before we transition into the back half, we should talk about the inciting incident, which is, the death of Darrow's wife, Ao, right? So how did that impact you guys? Because we were reading in the Discord like how it affected different people, like whether you were moved by it or whether you were just like, oh, I mean, I guess that's, So, Christy, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I instantly identified with the marriage because I married really young, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's totally us. So that was really sad. And I remember the first time I read it, the impact of them having to pull down the legs while they're hanging because of the low gravity was just, it was really hard. So yeah, that impacted me for sure. And I love that it continues to impact Darrow throughout the book. It's not like he forgets EO.
I do like that. I do like how I was not personally, like I wasn't super invested in their relationship because we literally see two interactions with them. And I don't understand how they were caught when they went to the garden. And I don't understand, like I just don't. It doesn't explain it. It's just, oh, they happen to be there, like right as they're coming out. Like, why not grab them while they're in? Like, I don't understand that.
It's one of those weird
think how
summary
that happened.
moments.
That garden belonged to those people. Like that's where they hung out. And I think it kind of sounded like maybe they were on their way in or something like that. But
but the Greys go through the vent. Like I thought the vent was like a secret passage type thing. I don't know. We just saw those two interactions with Ao and Darrow, and so like I felt bad for him because I like some of my favorite characters in fantasy, like it's not a new motivation, your wife dying, I mean, that's Falco and Greatcoats too, from the very beginning. But like, I didn't feel super close to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I feel like
didn't
they're
find it believable because, I mean, true love at 16. I mean, I understand they didn't have a long lifespan on Mars and being diggers and just their line of work. So things happen a lot faster. I mean, he kept calling 35 old, and I'm like, bro, you need to quit with that.
Yeah.
But I just, at 16, love like that?
Have you ever seen a teenager in love? Any of you?
I teach them. They're always like, I love them. How long have we been together? 3 days. I mean,
yeah, I just didn't relate to that.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I definitely get not relating to it. I'm trying to think about it in the context of their world. In the context of the world of the Reds, 35 is old, and they do marry early. They even said that. In fact, it's very Pierce Brown brought this in from the Romans too. The marriage age of the men and women is the same as it was for the Romans, and so I thought that was really interesting. Also, that they just marry really young, but I still just didn't really understand why Io was a revolutionary. I didn't understand why how they were so close. I don't know. But Pete, what are your thoughts?
I'll keep going back to what you were talking about with the context, because they are genetically engineered. Like the gestation period for them is 5 months instead of 9 because only golds can. Yeah. So they're all. It's in chapter, I think it's 12 or 13. It's during the time when Darrow's going through the carving. Like they mentioned that only golds can hold babies for 9 months because they are the golds.
Holy crap.
Yeah, they wanted the golds to, basically that's kind of their first test. If they can survive 9 months and a natural birth, because I mean, you
then
remember
they kill
towards
babies.
yeah. So
Okay, yeah, I missed that, Pete, but yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, that's the point I'll keep going back to that makes it a little bit more realistic. I think the first time around, I wasn't too affected. Like I was still affected by her death. Like, oh my gosh, like you have to literally kill your wife by pulling her legs. That's traumatizing. This time around, I definitely was, really affected just having read it so many times. I knew it was coming and I had a feeling of, dread, and then just like, oh my gosh, she's dying, and it hurts.
Same.
Yeah.
Because the pain, and I know more pain and all the pain. Well, I don't know all the pain because Iron, but
That's a really
they
good
knew
point.
each other. Yeah, they knew each other since they were kids too. So there's that.
Yep.
And being on a reread, Pete, and feeling that dread, and you get to know EO throughout the book too. So I feel like probably on a reread, it probably does affect you more.
Yeah, that's probably true. And having finished the book and heard seen Mustang sing the Reaper song, and then having heard it, like actually heard it audibly from YouTube and whatever, I think that would be more impactful going back and reading it when she sings the Reaper song. I think that would have more of an impact than it did for me. Nero is a douchebag. Like, let's just go ahead and get that out. Let's look at the comments. Charmaine makes a good point, is that EO didn't mean much to her, but it meant a lot to Darrow. And that's a good point. GM doesn't feel like a real character, kept being described as perfect. Then yeah, exactly. Like I bought Darrow's grief. Like I was okay with Darrow's grief, and I really like how it affected him throughout the book, where he felt guilty when he had feelings for Mustang. So I did like that. So
I think because this is something that Pierce Brown does that I love. It's like something that Dostoevsky does, where he sets up different characters as representatives of philosophy. So each character has their own philosophy, and I loved that I love that kind of thematic writing that really always gets me. And so from the beginning, Darrow and EO have this disagreement about their own philosophies about justice and about life from the very beginning. They have different values, and instantly that makes me more invested in their relationship. And I think that really weighed heavily with me as a person who reads thematically in a lot of ways. So yeah. That was part of it.
That makes sense. I agree. I thought there was a lot of telling. But I think that was a large part of that was just due to the writing style. Like us being in Darrow's head, we heard a lot of just Darrow's thoughts as opposed to seeing a lot. I thought it got better as it went on, but no, you're not gonna get chased out for saying that.
No. I think Paperback Empire has some good points that, like, the pace is really fast in that part from hi, we're introduced to EO, and oh wait, now she's dead.
Yeah, literally from the beginning to Darrow being converted into a gold, which don't get me started. Like, I don't like asking a bunch of questions about sci-fi, like ask questions about magic, but I'm like, how did you literally extend his bones and like you literally you tore him open and like modified every single bone of it. Like, I don't know.
But would you really want to read 60 chapters of how that's actually done? Because I don't. I got just enough to understand what's happening.
No, but it's just like, we'll get like.
We don't know how the Terminator was built.
Put a pin in it when we get to the Titus thing. We need to put a pin in it because I need to talk about Titus and the revelation with Titus in a second. Hold on, I'm trying to get through this. Yeah, Reds have the short lifespan. Yeah. That was what Pete was saying. Yes, these are all good points. It's like even if you didn't really care about EO, like you cared about Darrow, and I think that's enough for most people. It was enough for me. It has to be you, and I will die to you to prove it.
How much do we think EO knew about the revolution?
Did she know the sons of Ares? You think?
I don't know that she did. Not in Red. Like that maybe that's a fact that I don't remember. Like, do we know if she actually knew about the sons of what she knew about the sons of Ares?
Didn't one of y'all say that you predicted that her other surprise that she had for Darrow was the fact that she was pregnant? Didn't one of y'all say that?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
I think
someone said
somebody said that in the chat.
that they were
Somebody
predicting
said that.
the other surprise she had for Darrow was that she was pregnant. I mean, we'll never know. She's dead, but you know.
I know Michael agreed with it. I don't remember who
I think
originally.
she
Oh,
was just fed up with how they were treated.
No.
I think she just had enough. I mean, they've watched how many people die that the family members have to pull their legs to break their necks and kill them. And then, of course, their clan won the Laurel Tide, and what happened?
Yeah.
They didn't get any of the benefits. So,
And I really like that theme that goes throughout, that pervades the entire book. Yeah, that's my text noise, the Persona music. That pervades the entire book is like what is power? Like the relationships of the people with power and the people without. And the fact that like that literally no one else has a chance to get the laurel. I don't really understand that part in this discussion about power, because once you've essentially exposed that no one else can win, no one's going to try to win. It's in their best interest. It's in the best interest of the gold. So I really, this part I understood less than the Institute stuff. I didn't really think it was in the best interest of the gold to make it so obvious that there was no chance for anybody besides Gamma to win. You know what I mean? Like, why would anyone even try, knowing that no matter what they do, Gamma's going to get it?
I mean, weren't there a couple of clans that underperformed, and then they got extra work to do on top of what trying to meet their goal for the next month. So you're kind of screwed either way for succeeding and then not meeting your goal.
Oh, that's true.
I think part of it was in the end efficiency, because there's tiny little facts that add context, I think. And one of these is there are thousands upon thousands of these clans. Like there are like these little that microcosm that Darrow lived in. There's thousands of those throughout Mars. So I think the part of it was they didn't want to put in the effort to actually put that in there, to actually, give the laurel to a different person every time. And part of it was, it's also a culling as well. So if you put in a mechanism in a system to allow for revolution to happen, you are also able to purge the revolutionaries out of the system.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And yeah, that's the most interesting part. Like, aside from Murder Capture the Flag, which I loved, like this discussion of classism and power and that kind of stuff, and then revolution, like just the examination of that stuff is just so interesting in what has been labeled a YA book. This didn't feel super YA to me, like other than
either.
The youth of the character. Like the fact that they're 16 and just being like, I want to dance. I mean, whatever. But the rest of it, like the brutality. Are y'all okay with moving past this first section with
Let's
EO?
do it. Yeah.
The brutality of the passage.
Yes.
I was shocked.
The
was shocked.
YA fine. But when Darrow's put in there with Julian, a guy that he actually likes, as much as he can like.
That affected me more than Eo's.
A guy that I liked.
Yeah.
The fact that he has to beat him to death with his bare freaking hands. Oh my gosh.
Just his realization of what was going to be required. I mean, that just broke me. I was so upset over that part.
Agreed, Michi.
Thank you.
So the hold on, I'm trying to monitor comments and do all this stuff. So I didn't really love the fact that Darrow is the Wunderkind. Like, he's like, oh yeah, I passed all these. Like, I got a 1600 on my SATs. These tests were easy. I'm like, I mean, okay.
I didn't like that either.
I don't love that he's just the Superman who can do everything. But what I did love, focus, you stupid camera.
It just seemed that way. He got thrown into the fray and he floundered a lot.
Oh yeah.
Book smart and then being able to think on your feet are two different things.
Yeah. And I love that we see the same fractious nature that we have among the Reds, the different alphabet clans, we see the exact same fractious nature among the Golds. So there's a caste system in the world, and then there's a caste system among the Reds, and we got the same caste system among the Golds, between the Pixies and the Bronzes, and then even among the higher Golds,
hierarchy,
like the fact that poor Severo is like, they threw him into die versus Priam, like, oh, I shall destroy you because I was bred for this.
Yeah, well, that little wolf came back leading the pack. You know what I mean?
I literally picture Severo as a human version of Stitch from Lilo.
Nope.
And Stitch. That's what
He is. I picture him as one of Peter Pan's
great.
Lost Boys.
The problem is I can see Severo throwing a book at Cobra Bubbles' face. Hold on. So before let's continue talking about the passage and Julian and stuff. Julian's death was like hit hard. Like that was, like it was strange. Like the Red clans are all Greek. Like the Red clans are all Greek, but all the gold stuff, it's all Roman names, and the houses among the Institute are all Roman names. And I'm assuming that this is because the Romans conquered the Greeks. The Romans were superior among the nations. So they can't give the lessers the top titles. That would be my guess. Yeah, look at this. The relationship between Cassius and Julian. It was so cool to see that the Golds do have feelings, because we have Darrow being the unreliable narrator, right? We get all of his perspective of the Golds, but then we see the Golds and they love and hate and cry and hurt. Maybe not Nero. Like maybe Nero has no feelings, but the rest of them, like I think that Cassius genuinely loved his brother.
Yeah, I do too.
And I think it's great because we see Darrow struggle with that as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a very difficult time with his mission going forward, because he really came to care for a lot of these folks. I mean, they proved their loyalty and trustworthiness. And, I just wonder if I constantly wondered if Mustang was really Io. And then, of course, by the end, I knew that she wasn't. But I just have to wonder where the loyalty is going to lead in this series. Are they going to find out about Darrow's mission eventually and join with him? Or are they going to stay with their Golds? Like, I'm very interested to see how this is going to play out.
Yeah. So thoughts about the Institute in general, and just like the relationship between the characters. I thought the relationships were really well done, considering that it was, considering that it is so fast paced. I do like the fact that it took place over a year, it was
seasons. Yeah.
Time. So thoughts about, more thoughts about the relationship between these characters.
Man, I loved it. But then what I also was thinking about as I was falling in love with some of these Golds, that I'm like, oh, don't care about them. You can't care about them. They're bad. But, can you imagine for Julian and Cassius what their parents must feel like when both of their sons got an invitation? Like, I mean, when that first started, I didn't really think about that, but as it went forward, and as both Darrow and I both started liking these characters, I stopped and thought about it. Every one of those kids that were in that institute, their parents had to be just absolutely frightened that their child was going to get killed, cold, basically. And I mean, that just, I just don't, can you imagine? You're supposed to be proud of this honor, but at the same time, it's the higher Golds looking for a way to nix your kid.
Mm-hmm.
I
Christy,
think.
Sorry.
I think with the Gold parents, I think at some point they all detach, most of them at the very least, detach some way from their kids, because they know that this is like from birth. You have the board of whatever, the Board of Imperfect Babies or whatever you want to call it.
I thought it was quality control.
Quality control. I
Yeah.
couldn't remember. Corporate fascism, but Board of Quality Control that's just like, hey, we're going to kill a certain amount of babies because there can only be this many perfect golds, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
All the way down to the Institute, which if you get in, it's very likely that you're going to be part of the probably like 10 to 20% of kids that have a possibility of being died or maimed, even though maiming is very, there isn't much stakes if you get maimed because you can always just regrow a limb or get some cyber limb. Probably just regrow it if you're a gold, but.
But on the same side of that coin, it's like none of the children were safe. It didn't matter. Well, unless you were the governor, the arch governor's son. All the rest of those kids, a lot of them were from very high up families. And they didn't, none of that really mattered because, one of the highest families were the Bolognas, or however you say their last name. And they sure did take out one of them. So,
and they knew Julian was going to die.
Yeah,
as soon as they got the
they set him
invitation,
up.
The kinds of people that end up rising to power within the gold hierarchy are the kind of people that believe so deeply in this ideal that Pete was talking about, the Board of Quality Control and all that the weakest must die, this sort of social Darwinism thing. They believe that so strongly that I think that they are okay with letting their kids kind of duke it out. And we see in the end, the kids who come out and graduate, from the school, essentially, you can essentially make them your own kids. So I think they just believe it so deeply that their emotions are sort of, I don't know, they're all very damaged emotionally, I think, by this whole system.
Yeah, and they and that's another. Nero even says it in his speech about the Spartans, how the Spartans culled their young, like they culled the weak. Like there was the Council of Elders. If your baby had a cough or was born like disabled, they chucked it off a cliff into a ravine. That's just what was done. In Rome, they were slightly less harsh in Rome, but there were infant abandonment all the time for the weak and everything. And let's go to the comments. Charmaine has an excellent point. Being conflicted when you can't like Lezlie. Let's take how much we like Severo right now, and then realize that Severo's a gold. Like
I don't care. Severo is going to stand by Darrow through to the end. He will.
Oh, remember that comment at the very end that implies that remember Severo deleted the
swear, the red swear.
So we'll see. We'll see. I would be so. Oh my gosh, I'd be heartbroken if Severo, if it came out and Severo abandons him. Oh, I'd be so heartbroken.
You know what? My loyalties are going to go with Severo. I'm sorry.
This right.
I like
over
him
Darrow.
Yeah,
I love Darrow.
Yeah, I'm just eager to see the relationships where it goes. Are the golds really that bad? I think Christy made the point, the people in charge are that bad because the only way to rise to power among the gold system, among the system in place, is to be essentially like Nero. That's the reason the Augustan clan is the highest, because Nero has literally he does not care. He does not care at all that he is embarrassed that what is his real name? They call him Lucian, the Jackal. What's the Jackal's real name? Adrius. I think it's Adrius or something.
Yeah, Adrius sounds about right.
There you go. The fact that he's Darrow's something about the Jackal, and he's like, do not call my son that. The Augustans are not we are not flea-bitten carrion eaters. The golds are lions. It's okay, Nero, but just so cold and callous. He is this is what you will do for your silence. I will give you this. I will give you this. I will give you this. I will propel you to power. And he even I've never seen. I love how he turned the power thing on its head. Nero is despicable. I hate him. And at the same time, is such a kind of different view of power from fantasy books, to where he doesn't have that bull crap about, he's like, I don't care about, like, he doesn't care about racial purity. He's like, that's for the weaker crybaby families. Like, I don't give a crap about racial purity. I care about power. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care what family you're from. I want the most powerful. Oh, you're not from my family? Cool. Please join my family. You know what I mean? He's like, it's words and it's power that you wield, not blood. He doesn't care about blood. He cares about power as like the ultimate goal. And he's such a good villain. Oh my gosh, I hate him. Such a good villain.
Is he a lot like his historical namesake?
I mean, he seems less insane currently. But he seems a lot like, he seems a lot like Augustus. Augustus was probably less cruel, but he's like Augustus had that, like the Emperor Augustus had that very efficient thing. He changed loyalties, but Augustus was sickly. He was not powerful himself. So Augustus he's like the best. He's like the world's best boss, the best upper management possible. He hired like the best team. He had a guy that won all his wars, a guy that ran his propaganda. He was extremely efficient. So he's not really, but he is like some of the crueler emperors. Like, he's more like Domitian, really. But yeah, I love Nero, despite being just the worst. Hold on, go in the comments. What else is there to discuss? Any other thoughts about?
I want to jump back to kind of like Charmaine's comments and Angela's kind of going back and forth about caring about the golds. I personally think that, yes, a lot of golds are, at least the lesser golds, are partially ignorant to the society that they're built on. They don't, because they're benefactors of society, they're ignorant of the pain that they put others through sometimes. And I think
if they've been through that school, they're not ignorant. Sorry.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. They're a lot less.
Nero visits the others, so Nero's not ignorant, but there are probably a lot of them that are.
Yes, and I think sometimes it's unfair to judge people based on ignorance. It's really once they go from ignorance to learning about the truth, that's when you find the true measure of their character. Like, what do they do when they find out and they realize? And it really, and for some people, it's like they may know, but they don't know down here yet.
Yeah.
So like when it goes from the mind to the heart.
They can't tell them, the kids don't know what happened at the school. They're not told. And then if they refuse the invitation, well, that's punishable by death. So, they're literally, there is absolutely nothing they can do except go through with it.
Yeah.
Severo's dad, can you imagine having to watch that?
Well, what annoyed me, going back to the freaking, like, talking about the Institute and stuff, and the gold, and even with Nero, the cheating in the games, like, they're violating their own system of bringing the strongest to the top. Like, Nero even says it. He's like, this is bullcrap. It's supposed to be a meritocracy. Like, that's not what this is.
But Nero considers the best to be also the best to be the one with the most connections as well. So technically, in his own mind, Nero is actually abiding by the rules.
Nero's the worst.
But then what's the purpose of the school?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what's the purpose? Is Nero's mindset, the purpose of the school is to, okay, his guy's going to win. His son wins, but is the purpose of the school to see who comes in like second and third?
Probably. So he can steal them from the other families, because
Exactly.
From a basketball perspective, there are times that teams will draft somebody just to sit them on their bench so they can't do something for another team.
Yeah. It's like the shelf space reindeer games readathon. Like, Snowball was always going. So it's really just
no, sir. There was no always. I was always with my team on top. You need to face reality, Alan. It's time.
I did love seeing that's where you forget that Mustang and Severo are golds, is because they saw crap that was unfair, like within their own system, and they pushed back against it. Like I thought it was way too neat. He was out of pages, but it was way too neat when, Virginia shows up and is like, hey, here's my brother. Like, it's like, oh,
I loved that.
What a climax. But I did like that she didn't turn on Darrow. Like I did love that, that she, that she thinks her dad's a douchebag too. You know what I mean?
Well, I always appreciate when a character is exactly what they always seem to be. Like, she never did anything to disprove her loyalty, but Darrow's preconceptions about what a gold is and what they mean, even though that was kind of changing throughout this whole event, it's going to be hard for him to trust anybody. But when he let her have her life, I think she realized that he was different, just not exactly how different. And then after the revelation with Titus, I'm like looking at everybody sideways, like, are you a red?
Oh,
Were you red?
Can we discuss that? Like, that was so shocking, but at the same time, is it that easy to just freaking become a gold? Like,
I don't think it was easy.
I think
like,
a lot of people probably died
Two of a
trying to
handful?
become golds.
Like 2 of a handful are freaking.
Well, and he's insane after it. So it literally made him go insane. It was so hard. I don't think it's easy.
And we also know, Alan, just remember, there are other carvers besides the one that the Sons of Ares are probably working with.
Yeah, they
There's
did
probably other factions that are trying to infiltrate as well.
That's how
so
they got Mickey to do it, because they're like, oh, well, the last guy said he could do it, and he couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do it either. Mickey's like, I will carve him up, or however.
That's a great accent for Mickey. That's on par.
I picture him just like in like again, Cyberpunk 77. He's in one of those CD bars, being like, "You bring him to me, I carve him the best," or whatever. This right here, Daniel. Yes, we have not really talked about Cassius and Darrow's relationship. We've talked about Julian. I also really liked this particular thing, how they went from brothers, and I think Darrow really did like Cassius. I think he thought Cassius once, but I think he really did like Cassius. And then Cassius, first of all, how many times can Darrow be lured into the woods into a trap? 8? Because that's how many. Like, Darrow, just stop going places alone. What's wrong with you? But I just thought, like,
he thinks he's with friends.
Well, and you also got to remember, he's 16.
Yeah, that too.
But yeah, I really liked the turn of Cassius, and I also really liked at the end where he bites off his scab and spits blood in his face.
It's a blood feud.
And Darrow makes a point, like, Cassius, what did you want me to do? Like, let Julian kill me? Like, everyone had to kill someone to be here.
If the Golds wanted him dead, they were going to make sure he ended up dead. Julian, his time was up. Yeah, he was not going to survive.
Yeah,
not at all.
I didn't really understand why Cassius held it against. Did he hold it against him so much because he lied? Like,
I think so, because Cassius, Darrow let him believe something that wasn't true, and then Cassius spent all that time hating Titus, and then kills him when he shouldn't have been allowed to do so. And he had a lot go on. So
he's saying the same thing here.
I can't blame how Cassius feels or where he stands at the end of it.
So I actually think that Cassius, I think he's a very emotional person. I think he cannot let it go that someone killed his dear baby brother that he loved. And I really think it's mostly that. I think if Darrow had told him right away, I think they probably would have been enemies right then. Like, I don't think the time and the lying really made that much of a difference. I really think he just loved Julian.
I think Cassius also has middle child syndrome, because we learned that, like, Cassius's older brother is this, like, titan of a man that killed Augustus's oldest son, who was apparently, he said, worth more than all of Bellona's sons combined. So, like,
he's in the shadow.
Yeah, he has to be experiencing some of that as well, which is probably why he also, reacts so strongly to really everything. And Klaus, this is one of the problems I had with the Burning God in the Poppy War, is having the single POV from Darrow is it takes us away from these other characters that we might be, like, really interested in watching if they're not near Darrow. So I agree. I also didn't like that Cassius was taken away. I did like the jackal. Like, were y'all creeped out by this? Like,
Yes.
when the jackal, okay, so when Darrow spears his hand, and the jackal's like, so what do I got to do? Like all I have to do is cut off my hand and I can get away. I was like, oh, he's gonna cut off his hand. He's gonna cut off his hand. Soren, like I said that out loud. I'm like, he's gonna cut off his hand. And sure enough, he's just like, it's just the hand, like the mind. So I need to. I'm eager to see where the jackal, because I don't think we're done with the jackal.
Definitely not.
I don't think we're done with
Definitely
the
not. I think even though Darrow got adopted into that family,
yeah.
but you know what?
You're right.
That's okay. Severo's going to be waiting.
Darrow's got a lot of enemies. Hail Reaper indeed. I'm just going through the comments.
I do wish that somehow
The jackal.
Brown could have extended those last, like, it's like 6 chapters, and so much happens in those last 6 chapters.
Agreed.
Yeah, Olympus
Like-
was too easy, in my opinion. That takeover was just a little
100%. I do not understand why the proctors did not just shoot all of them. Like, shoot them. Or Apollo. If Apollo hates Darrow so much to where he's going to push him out of a tree and kill him, and let him get killed by a bear, Darrow sleeps sometime. Kill him while he sleeps. Then you're done. Like, why did you not just murder him in his sleep?
Well, but I think that Severo's dad was helping. I mean, I think he was keeping a kind of eye on things as well because his son's involved. So I think there was a little bit we might have had to infer going on back there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Good
yeah.
call. He feels responsible.
Poor Julian. Julian never stood a chance. Like, Julian was gone. Like, and Severo was supposed to be that too. I love that Severo survived.
With Julian's description and introduction, I knew. I'm like, he's a goner.
Oh.
I just knew. I've just gotten to a point where when I start a new book and I kind of have an idea of the premise and I meet somebody that's just instantly you fall in love with, I'm like, yep, that one's dead.
Yeah,
You're preparing me for pain. Okay,
Yeah,
then.
that's the one that's going to be like, hey guys, I'll be right back.
Yeah, I think a lot of it could have been expanded. Another complaint that I have. It's not. I mean, again, I liked it. I don't really understand how every single person that Darrow met prior to going into the Institute were all in House Mars. Like,
Yeah.
really? Like, they're all in House Mars? Oh,
Convenience.
there are 12 freaking houses, and every single person he met was chosen for House Mars. I mean, I get it. Like, I understand why it has to be that way, but it's just like, maybe it's just because they're all impulsive. Because to be fair, every single person in that bleeding house is so impulsive. So, maybe he just met a bunch of
and
impulsive
they
people.
were chosen to be that. They were chosen because of that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's said that Mars usually implodes on itself. It burns first.
Yeah.
So
What
I
is your-
love that each house has its own challenge, that it has its own test to overcome, and that's
Yeah.
Mars's challenge.
Yeah. What did y'all think about the relationship between Virginia or Mustang and Darrow? Do y'all like that one better than the one with Eo? Like, it seems like he's
definitely.
kind of
Well, but
moved.
we got to meet her. We got to meet her and get to know her. We did not get to spend any time with EO.
She reminds me a lot of Annabeth from Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
And partially
Yeah,
it's probably
a
because
little
of the Minerva Athena connections, and they're both blonde, but Mustang is great.
I really like Mustang. I like that she has such a strong. She just, that's why she follows Darrow's, is because she has such strong ideals, and I really like her character a lot. I don't know how I feel about their relationship, at least in this book. I don't remember very much about the next books or their relationship, if it's there. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel emotionally about it, because I really did get attached to Eo. Whenever Darrow goes back to her and he feels like it's forbidden to be with Eo, with Mustang because of Eo, I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I relate to that so much. I don't know.
But again, I'm like, a
It's fine for
young
him if he's
kid,
fine with it, but
It's
Yeah.
like, really?
yeah, I don't hold it against him. I don't know. I wasn't feeling it yet.
I
We'll
gotcha.
see.
Yeah, Antonia was definitely like mishandled. Like like she's wasted. Really, did she die? Like she was
No,
alive.
No, she didn't
she's
die.
not dead.
She didn't die.
No.
Well, then maybe we'll see her again. But I was just like, oh, whatever, Antonia, get out of my face. So Christina Evie says hi. She just saw you. So yeah, I thought there was a lot more going on than just a simple YA Hunger Games clone. There was just a lot. Like it just speaks of a lot. Like Christy, do you want to mention the noble lie question you wanted to ask now?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I thought, okay, the Golds have a very, I don't know if it's nuanced, but it's more nuanced than most villains. I feel like it's more nuanced than a lot of young adult villain hierarchies are, where they believe that democracy is a noble lie, and that's why Athens fell to the Romans. And so they're trying to essentially fight that. They believe that because Luna beat Earth, their might makes them right, essentially. And so they're trying to avoid decadence and the fall. And so I just thought that was so interesting, and I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
When I because that's all in the speech from Nero when he's speaking to the new recruits going into the Institute, and I understand. You understand the logic, if whether or not you agree with it, you at least understand it. Nero calls democracy the noble lie because it implies that everyone is born equal, and he's like, guys, that's not true. Like, that one person cannot necessarily do this other thing the same as someone else. Like, you're lying to yourselves to pretend like this guy's as smart as this guy just because you want to feel good about yourself. Like, that's what Nero's saying. And I mean, he's right in a way in that democracy, the reason Athens fell is because it was a direct democracy. Everyone from the poorest peasant, poorest, like uneducated, though they had to be a little more educated than normal to know what was going on, to the poorest peasant, to the wealthiest noble, they were all involved in the decisions together in this council called the Ecclesia. And they were so easily swayed by their emotions. Guys, look at any mob. Mob rule is insane. And all it took was one demagogue, one guy to stir up their passions. And all of a sudden, that's literally how Athens fell. They multiple times had chances to make peace with Sparta. And because they were winning, even though they had just been losing, because they were winning, they had some radical be like, no, destroy Sparta. And they're like, yes, we're better than Sparta. And then what happens? They lose, and then they get destroyed. They literally were completely destroyed by Sparta. Like, and that was the end of their entire empire because of the rabble. And so Nero is saying that like government by the rabble is like, it's cute. Like, it's cute that you want to like say, I get where your emotions are coming from. Like, you want to feel like you're doing the right thing, but that doesn't equal strength. That equals weakness. You know what I mean? And I loved that speech by Nero because, we obviously don't agree. Like, we obviously don't agree that like those of you who are poor, those of you who are without, you absolutely should be ground under the boot heel of the strong and wealthy. Obviously we don't agree with that, but you do understand where he's coming from because the mob is easily persuaded. Oh, hold on. Look. Comments now.
He was saying these children are eating up his garbage or something like that.
They are. They're just devouring it. Annabeth, long time frame was. Hold on. Some of them, I thought some of the, especially minor ones, they were like defined by like their one thing. Like Tactus is defined by his like depravity.
Being a pixie.
Yeah, Antonia's the mean one. Okay. Daniel, have you read all the other books? I have, I've only read this one. I'm so excited.
I can agree with that because there's a lot of little things that it sets up that is very nice to see.
Okay.
Afterwards.
Klaus, I heart you so much. That's exactly what I'm saying. Cleon is the demagogue, the rabble rouser, and Pericles is the distinguished statesman who led through wisdom. 100%. I completely agree.
Roke. We didn't talk about Roke.
Oh, man.
Roke.
Roke is the best.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I was so glad he was still alive.
Oh, me too. Me too. I think I am vlogging Golden Sun, Angela. Actually, I think I am going to vlog Golden.
Good.
That there's so many twisties and turnies that I think I'm going to.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I agree with that too, Charmaine. I think the reason that Mustang is believable is because they have all that time to kind of. Oh, meets you 100%. Like, can you even name another Wolfpack member besides?
Thistleweed.
Thistleweed.
Okay, can you define anything about them? Can you tell me anything?
There
about
was
them?
nothing given to define them. Pebble.
I mean,
They were just all little howlers.
I agree with you.
It's a little bit reminiscent of Malazan characterization in some ways because they have a trait a little bit that's very defining of them.
The revolutionary in this one, I do like Severo. How Severo is not going to let the fact that he's small like stop anybody. He will murder you in his sleep.
Man, one-eyed, he don't care. He is the honey badger of Red Rising.
I agree.
Go ahead,
I
Dan.
So who was y'all's favorite character? Is it Severo for everybody?
Severo, yeah. If Darrow died in the end, as long as we could keep going with Severo, I'd be 100% fine with that.
100% agree.
Christy?
I just love all the characters so much. I don't know if I can pick a favorite. I had a hard time with the golds because they literally were all cold-blooded murderers, but
I like
Darrow killed Julian. I mean,
it's true.
Literally,
He wouldn't have done it except for being locked in the system, but I understand the golds are also locked in their system. It's just hard.
I like Severo, and Severo is one of my favorites for sure. But I also really like Nero. I hate him, but I just like him as a character because like that kind of like cold granite. It reminds me of like Tywin Lannister, who is just also a fantastic character, and just impossible. And I also really like the Jackal, because I really like these like characters that are just like kind of unflappable. Like he was just like talking reasonably while his hand is speared through the table, and he just creeped me out.
There's something wrong with him, Alan.
I know. I'm so eager to see what it is.
Charmaine mentioned Pax. We didn't talk about Pax either.
I cried over that
What's
one.
his last name? I am Pax Ow.
Telemanos.
Telemanos.
Paxow Telemanos.
Telemanos. I love Pax.
I was so upset. So upset.
Yeah.
I know. Like, because the Jackal just gets up and it's just like right through the throat. Get him. Get him, the Jackal.
That was one of Michael's criticisms, was that scene. He was like, how possibly could they have just sat there while the Jackal did all those things and just like...
I think they were in shock. Darrow did not expect a gold who is all about their beautiful appearance to cut off his hand.
But Darrow also gave him a knife to cut it. Like Darrow gave him a vibroblade to finish cutting it with.
Well, no, Pax did.
Oh, okay.
He couldn't handle watching him saw at it, so he gave him that one of the ion blades. But it's just, I mean, I would have been definitely in shock myself, even though Darrow kind of instantly realized he screwed up when he gave him the knife.
Yeah, 100%. I think Darrow was just trying to like assert his dominance, not thinking that this guy would actually try to cut his freaking hand off.
Well, I mean, the Jackal got where he was because he was very, very clever. And when he admitted to the fact that he did eat other kids when they were in those tunnels, Darrow was an idiot. He should have scrapped that plan where he was going to let him, cut your hand off and you leave. Like, that should have immediately clued you in.
I think that's why I like the Jackal. I think that's why I like the Jackal so much, because like my favorite type of villain, my favorite villain archetype is the brilliant villain who is like thinking steps and steps and steps ahead of what's going on. And I think the Jackal did that. I think he underestimated Darrow. That is foolish. But the thing is, I don't think he's going to do it again, which is why I'm so eager to see, unless the Jackal becomes a good guy, in which case he's less interesting to me. But I don't know what the Jackal's going to be. But I know the Jackal's still there. And I can't imagine he's going to be like, oh yeah, Darrow, I love you now. Thanks for letting me cut my hand.
Darrow's going to have to watch his back at all times.
Yeah. So... All right, guys. So any like this was, I just really love doing this. And I also, guys, like Lezlie, Christy, Pete, you guys have such great things to say about this. I loved getting to talk to you guys with it. I loved getting to read it with all these people. We had actually a lot of people read this with us, which is really, really exciting. Yeah. I'm so excited to read Golden Sun. Like, I'm so excited.
Me too.
I'm excited to reread it.
So any final thoughts on any final thoughts on Red Rising before we close this out? We're about an hour right now.
I loved
Just
it.
wanted to
I'm
say
glad
thank you.
You hosted it.
Yes, thank you so much. This is great.
This was wonderful.
Friggin' Titus. Oh my gosh.
It's even more special because my Red Rising copy I got from my Shelf Space Secret Santa, Lauren Elizabeth, and it was one of her favorite series, she said. And just to have a new favorite and it be a gift at the same time just makes it even more special because I'm just a weirdo like that.
Aww.
I don't like predicting things with people who have read ahead of me because their faces give it away.
Yeah, I can hide my face for a bit because I don't have a poker face.
Hide your faces, guys. I
don't remember anything, so you're probably safe.
Put on your balaclava.
Let's do this.
Oh my gosh.
Pete's been kidnapped. But I'm gonna predict. I think Lezlie and I already predicted that like eventually it's gonna come out that like that Darrow's a red, right? Like I think that's got to come out eventually. And I don't know. I think Nero's gonna get it by the end of the series. Like I know he is. He's too evil. He's gonna get it. And I think the Jackal is evil and is gonna be like the supervillain. It's gonna be the Jackal and it's gonna be the Jackal working against Darrow from the inside and Cassius working from the outside. And it's gonna be Severo and the Howlers. And I don't know. I really kind of want Darrow to just stay a gold and oppress the Reds, kind of.
What? You're a monster.
No, I just probably,
if you were in this, you would be on the Jackal's team and you'd be eating other people.
No, I would not eat people, but
look, I think Nero is going to discover Darrow is a red, but he won't want to suffer the embarrassment of having adopted a red in his family, that he's going to be forced to keep it a secret and figure out a way to dispose him, because he's not going to find out until Darrow is in some sort of position of power and he's figured out how to get his men under his command to love him. And so, he's going to have to try and figure out how to work against him. I
don't want Darrow to become a gold and oppress the Reds. But how awesome a story would that be if he became the thing he wanted to destroy and the gold empire and just oppress all of Mars.
He will never forget where he came from. He will never forget the catalyst that got him on this path. I think he's going to be the one. He's going to be the one to bring equality to the colors. Or abolish the colors.
Okay, cool. Lezlie, I love this. So you heard it here now, our predictions. Leslie's predicting an empire of equality. I'm predicting a heel turn. So we'll see who's right, or if either of us is right as we continue to read. Okay, so
we can come out now.
Yeah, you can come out now. Anyway, guys, thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Guys, next month we'll be talking Golden Sun. I will have Charmaine and Vish and Joanna will be joining me for the Golden Sun talk. And so super excited, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming. All of you who came and listened and put in your comments, just such great stuff, guys. This is what makes BookTube amazing, this community and sharing thoughts and all that kind of stuff. So you guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you next month.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Jack.